Hello everyone, I'm Darren Barnett and I'm a GP and I'm a member of the Revival Fellowship at Woodcroft here in Adelaide. And I just wanted to re-record update number 3, or the third weekly update, because there was an update 2.5 last Wednesday, about the coronavirus situation. So what's happened in the last week? Well, we've gone from just over 1,000 cases to 3,500 cases. But there is a little bit of good news in that the last doubling took 4.5 days, whereas the one before that was 3 days and the one before that was 3.5 days. So we are seeing a slight slowing of things, and that's showing itself in the projections heading forwards as dropping a little bit as well. So that tells us that the things we're doing are helping, but there's still a bit more to do if we want to see this go away. So if you have a look here on the picture, you can see that the trend line's still heading upwards at a fairly steep rate, and that suggests that we need to see more things change to continue to be able to cope with this situation. So what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about flattening that curve. And I guess the one thing I want to say is that every one of us has a role in achieving that, because if each one of us does the right thing, then if you have a look again on the picture, you can see that if 90% of the interactions that were happening prior to this stop happening, then this could be 2 or 3 months. If 80% of the interactions that were happening stop happening, then we're looking at somewhere between 4 and 6 months. But if anything more than 70% of people keep doing what they were doing, and the same number of interactions happen, and people continue to get sick, then we're in for a very, very long time. And when we look at that, I'd actually encourage you to think about it a little bit differently, and not think about you staying away from others, but think about the fact that, say you're the person with the virus, and you actually don't realise that you're sick yet. Do you want to spread it to anyone? And I think every one of us would be very clear in that we don't want to give it to somebody else. And so for the sake of those around you, I'm asking each person to remember the social distancing rules. And when we come to social distancing, the Australian plan, they're calling it social distancing. I'd actually like to toss that out a little bit. Can we call it physical distancing? Because in the end, we actually don't want to lose our social connection. We want to build our social connection stronger because we're all going to notice being physically distanced from each other. The 3 things that we really want to focus on are hand hygiene, not touching your face, and if you have to cough, cough into your elbow. And the very last bit is, unless you actually need to be out, please stay home. Because every time you leave the house, there's the opportunity that you touch a surface, and we know that this virus can live on a surface for 3 to 5 days in some situations, or you move into somebody's space and they cough at just the wrong moment, or you cough at just the wrong moment, and you become somebody who's now got the virus as well. So the picture there, you can see it's a picture of a series of matches, and if you remove one of those matches, then the fire stops spreading. And that's what we want to see happen with this coronavirus. But as we're doing that, remember I was talking about changing social distancing to physical distancing. We don't want you to isolate yourselves. And particularly for us as Christians, we don't want to be isolated from God. And so we're going to read out just one scripture. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. And I guess the real story here is, and this is Darren's tip for those who have been following Darren's tips through this crisis, to make sure you're thinking about others, and particularly those people who may not be as technology savvy, and so it's a little bit harder for them to join into a live stream or to Zoom a meeting or some of the other things we're doing, and reach out to them, ring them, even the old-fashioned thing, and maybe write a letter. I'm pretty sure I haven't written a letter in 25 years. And so it's something we can all do. And on the next slide, I've just got a few options of how we can stay connected. And the first thing we should be making sure we stay connected with is God. And so more time with your Bible, more time praying. And if you need to be fed some things, then there's live streams all across the world. And pretty much any time of the day or night, you'll be able to find somebody somewhere who's live streaming something that you can join in with. There's Zoom, there's other platforms that will be coming together. There's email, there's phone, there's Twitter, there's Facebook. There's a whole series of different things we can do. And all of these are aimed towards making sure that out the other end of this, we're more connected and that we've all coped with this crisis. So just going back to Darren's tip, please don't isolate yourselves, particularly don't isolate yourselves from God. Thank you.